Hello. Last week, a rather extraordinary and unprecedented meeting took place in Quantico, Virginia. It was a meeting to which 800 generals and admirals from all over the world had been summoned to attend. There was a lot of speculation about why this meeting was taking place. It had been called by the Secretary of State for Defence, and no one really knew what it was about. Was it in preparation for a conflict with Russia, or was there some possibility that China was going to take Taiwan, and what was to happen afterwards, and so on? And so no one really knew what it was all about. Now, the meeting had been called by the Secretary of State for Defence, a guy by the name of Pete Hegseth, who you may well have heard of. Now, Pete, he's got an interesting background. He was in the army. He was in the National Guard, and he served in Iraq and in Afghanistan. He eventually reached the rank of major. And after leaving the army, he did one or two things, and eventually ended up as a presenter on Fox News. Now, Pete's a bit of a character, He's known as being an alcoholic, although he has said that he won't drink whilst he's Secretary of State for Defence. He's a bit of a womanizer. He's been married 3 times, and I think there's all sorts of accusations about him mistreating women. I think in one case he had to actually settle out of court, and so I think he's a bit of a loose cannon. But of course, he's completely and utterly loyal to Trump, and he's been appointed Secretary of State for Defence, which means that he is in charge of the biggest military that's ever existed. Some 3 million people are under him, and it is he that summoned this meeting. Now, when all these generals were assembled, remember they come from all over the world. Some had been in planes for 15, 18 hours to get there, and all the disruption that would have caused to their normal lives and work and so on. So they probably weren't that happy anyway to have been called away. But the meeting was what you might call a bit of a pep talk, really. Pete explained to them all that he didn't want soldiers getting fat. And he explained he didn't like, he wanted discipline, and he didn't want people to grow beards and have moustaches in the army, in the navy, and the air force. He wanted to have everyone clean shaven. He wanted them all to keep fit, and he did say to the generals and to the admirals there that he included them, and that they all needed to do PT every day. And so generally it was a little bit like a headmaster of the junior school talking to the children just about to go up to the big school. He sort of patronised them all, walking up and down the stage in his rather cheap and ill-fitting blue suit and his brown shoes, looking really rather like a spiv, frankly. And he went on for about half an hour or so, and by which time I think the generals and the admirals in the audience must have been absolutely seething to think that they had been brought there to be talked down to by this pipsqueak. Now, after Pete's talk, they played some brass band music because the next, the star turn was going to be the president. And of course, he had to keep them all waiting for half an hour whilst they played brass band music over the speakers. Interestingly, and I thought it was totally appropriate, one of the pieces of music they played, which I've included in the video, which you may see afterwards, was the theme tune to Monty Python. Seemed to sum it up absolutely perfectly. By the time Trump came on, they were all so angry, I think, that there was absolute silence. No one applauded at all. And Trump then proceeded to talk for an hour and a half. It was the usual sort of stuff. He starts with the teleprompter and then he goes off on all sorts of directions. And he was talking about how they discussed changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, how they had long discussions about changing the name of the Department of Defense to the War Department, and how he'd done so well with COVID, and how the terrorists were bringing in millions of dollars. All these generals and admirals all sitting listening to this waffle. Yeah, he's lying his head off all the way through, lying as he always does, and it was just a typical ramble, except that it seemed a little bit more unhinged than usual. I think Trump had misjudged it, in as much as he's so used to talking to MAGA, who are stupid by definition, are stupid people. You know, they're like Farage supporters, the people who can't think. You know, just complete idiots. And I think he was slightly shocked at the cold reception he got from these generals and admirals, who are people who, after all, have graduated from West Point to 30 years ago, and they'll work their way up, and they'll have spent their lives judging character and organising and being very smart. I mean, some of the cleverest people in America are these guys, and they would have looked at Hegseth, and they'd have looked at Trump, and they'd have thought, what complete and utter idiots. So on and on droned Trump. At one point, you'll see in the video if you watch it, that he had a little section where he talked about how there's a lot of criticism of Biden. I mean, you know, he mentioned how a year ago the country was finished, dead, and that now it's the hottest country in the world. He did a bit about how Biden keeps falling down the stairs, and how he's very, very careful when he goes downstairs, and how whilst he has no time for Obama, he was a terrible president, he did think he was very good at walking downstairs. Can you imagine you've flown from Tokyo or from Seoul in Korea, you've come 18 hours on a plane to get to this hall, sit half an hour listening to brass band music over the speakers, and then you get this claptrap? I mean, these guys must have been so angry by then. But he then got on to what I think this was all about. And he said, America is facing an invasion from within, and they had to be ready to deal with this. He talked about how cities were becoming war zones. He talked in particular about Portland, Oregon. He said that was a war zone similar to Afghanistan. Now, everyone knows Portland, Oregon is a state up in the northwest, a fairly peaceful, quiet area. Portland's a city of about 600,000 people. Ever since Trump came out with this rubbish, people have been posting on social media film of the centre of Portland, all very peaceful, nice green spaces and so on, little markets and all the rest of it. A thoroughly peaceful city. Nothing wrong with it whatsoever. No hint of violence or danger, or breakdown of law and order. I saw a man this morning on Instagram. He was saying, I'm reporting from the heart of the war zone. He said, I'm outside a bookshop in the centre of Portland. He said, there are people in there buying books. We need the military to come in and deal with this. The whole world is laughing at the idea that Portland, Oregon, is a war zone that needs the military. But he's sending the military in anyway. And so I think the whole point of this thing, and it was misjudged, and it was naive, it was crass, it was embarrassing. The whole idea really is that Trump knows that he's going to lose the midterms, and he isn't going to back down. And the only way he's going to avoid being chucked out or losing his power is by declaring martial law. And that clearly seems to be his plan. And I think he thought the military would all be behind him, or that they'd at least go along with it. Whereas I think a lot of these admirals and generals are going to have a great deal of difficulty when or if they're asked to send troops into cities all over America, particularly democratically run cities. But I think that was what it was all about. But I think it did, if you watch this video through, I think you can see how Trump's mind is going. The guy is crazy. He is completely crazy. He's so deluded. I mean, it's difficult to believe that he believes what he's saying, but he's losing it. And as I've said so many times before, I just don't see how he can hang on much longer. He's too reckless. Anyway, that's enough about it. If you'd like to watch this, what I've done, I've taken the whole 2.5 hours of speech, and I've chopped it down, cutting out all the waffle and trying to restrict it to the more interesting bits, which I hope you might find of interest. There'll be no point in me saying anything at the end of it, so please have a look if you have the time, and I hope you find it of interest. So thanks anyway, and until next time, bye for now.
This speech today, as I drink my coffee, this speech today is about people, and it's about culture. The topic today is about the nature of ourselves. Because no plan, no program, no reform, no formation will ultimately succeed unless we have the right people and the right culture at the War Department. Right now, I'm looking out at a sea of Americans who made a choice when they were young men and young women to do something most Americans will not, to serve something greater than yourselves, to fight for God and country, for freedom and the Constitution. You made a choice to serve when others did not, and I commend you. Think of it as the golden rule test. Jesus said, do unto others that's what you would have done unto yourself. It's the ultimate simplifying test of truth. The new War Department golden rule is this: do unto your unit as you would have done unto your own child's unit. Would you want him serving with fat or unfit or undertrained troops? Or alongside people who can't meet basic standards? Or in a unit where standards were lowered so certain types of troops could make it in? If the Secretary of War can do regular, hard PT, so can every member of our joint force. Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are. So whether you're an airborne ranger or a chairborne ranger, a brand new private or a 4-star general, you need to meet the height and weight standards and pass your PT test. And as the chairman said, yes, there is no PT test. But today, at my direction, every member of the joint force at every rank is required to take a PT test twice a year, as well as meet height and weight requirements twice a year, every year of service. Also today, at my direction, every warrior across our joint force is required to do PT every duty day. Should be common sense. I mean, most units do that already, but we're codifying it. And we're not talking like hot yoga and stretching. Real hard PT, either as a unit or as an individual. At every level, from the Joint Chiefs to everyone in this room to the youngest private, leaders set the standard. And so many of you do this already. Active, Guard, and Reserve. This also means grooming standards. No more beards, long hair, superficial individual expression. We're going to cut our hair, shave our beards, and adhere to standards. Because it's like the broken windows theory of policing. It's like when you let the small stuff go, the big stuff eventually goes. So you have to address the small stuff. This is on duty, in the field, and in the rear. If you want a beard, you can join Special Forces. If not, then shave. We don't have a military full of Nordic pagans. But unfortunately, we have had leaders who either refuse to call BS and enforce standards, or leaders who felt like they were not allowed to enforce standards. Both are unacceptable. And that's why today, at my direction, the era of unprofessional appearance is over. No more beardos. The era of rampant and ridiculous shaving profiles is done. But I look out at this group, and I see great Americans. Leaders who have given decades to our great republic at great sacrifice to yourselves and to your families. But if the words I'm speaking today are making your heart sink, then you should do the honorable thing and resign. We would thank you for your service. But I suspect, I know, the overwhelming majority of you feel the opposite. These words make your hearts full. You love the War Department because you love what you do, the profession of arms. You are hereby liberated to be an apolitical, hard-charging, no-nonsense, constitutional leader that you joined the military to be. In closing, a few weeks ago, at our monthly Pentagon Christian prayer service, I recited a commander's prayer. It's a simple yet meaningful prayer for wisdom for commanders and leaders. I encourage you to look it up if you've never seen it. But the prayer, it ends like this. And most of all, Lord, please keep my soldiers safe. Lead them, guide them, protect them, watch over them. And as you gave all of yourself for me, help me give all of myself for them. And amen. I have prayed this prayer many times since I've had the privilege of being your secretary. And I will continue to pray this prayer for each of you as you command and lead our nation's finest. Go forth and do good things, hard things. President Trump has your back, and so do I. And you'll hear from him shortly. Move out and draw fire, because we are the War Department. Godspeed. So, ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming the 45th and 47th President of the United States, our Commander-in-Chief, Donald J. Trump.
Thank you very much, Pete. Great job you're doing, too. Fantastic job. I've never walked into a room so silent before. This is very... Oh, don't laugh. Don't laugh. You're not allowed to do that. You know what? Just have a good time. And if you want to applaud, you applaud. And if you want to do anything you want, you can do anything you want. And if you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. Of course, there goes your rank. There goes your future. The Joint Chiefs of Staff and so many others in this room who together represent the greatest and most elite fighting force in the history of the world, the United States military. We're very proud of our military. I rebuilt the military during my first term. It's one of the greatest achievements. We had the greatest economy in history, and I built the military. Those are the two things I say more than anything else. And I also kept us safe at the borders. We had very good borders. We didn't have people coming in from jails and prisons and everything like took place over the last 4 years. They'll never forget what happened to this country over the last 4 years with the incompetence. The Secretary Hegseth beautifully described the name change reflects far more than the shift in branding. It's really a historic reassertion of our purpose and our identity and our pride. That's when we go with the word war. And you know, we want war because we want to have no wars, but you have to be there, and you know, sometimes you have to do it. I have settled so many wars since we're here. We're here almost 9 months, and I've settled 7, and yesterday we might have settled the biggest of them all, although I don't know. Pakistan, India was very big. Both nuclear powers, I settled that. But yesterday could be the settlement in the Middle East. That hasn't happened for 3,000 years. I said, how long have you been fighting? 3,000 years, sir. That's a long time. But we got it, I think, settled. We'll see. Hamas has to agree. And if they don't, it's going to be very tough on them. But it is what it is. But all of the Arab nations, Muslim nations have agreed. Israel has agreed. It's an amazing thing. It just came together. War is very strange. You know, you never know what's going to happen with war. The easiest one of them all is Putin. I said, number one, it's a war that would have never happened if I were president, if the election weren't rigged. If I were president, that war would have never happened. Not even a little chance. And it didn't happen for 4 years. But I knew Putin very well, and I thought that would be easy because I know him so well. Well, that one turned out to be the hardest of them all. We had some that were not settleable, and they all got settled. So if this works out, that we did yesterday with the Middle East, then that's more than a war. That's lots of wars. That's all combined. That's a lot of wars. Many of you were over there in many different capacities in many different countries. That's a big part of the earth. I rebuilt our nuclear, as you probably know, but we'll upgrade that also and just hope we never have to use it. We have to hope we never have to use it because the power of that is so incredible. I see things. I don't think they'd show it to you. I really wouldn't want them to show it to you. But when you see the result of what's left, you never want to use that. Never, never, ever. Fire department. I always put the fire department in because they're great. They're great. And I got 95% of their vote, too. That helps. When you get 95% of their vote, you always have to mention them. But they're great. And they're brave in our inner cities, which we're going to be talking about, because it's a big part of war now. It's a big part of war. But the firemen go up in ladders, and you have people shooting at them while they're up in ladders. I don't even know if anybody heard that. And I said, don't talk about it much, but I think you have to. Our firemen are incredible. They're up in one of these ladders that goes way up to the sky, rescuing people, and you have animals shooting at them, shooting bullets at firemen that are way up in death territory. You fall off that ladder, it's over. It's over. They don't even have to inspect you when you hit the ground. And you have people shooting bullets at them in some of these inner cities. But I have to sign for a general because we have beautiful paper, the gorgeous paper. I said, throw a little more gold on it. They deserve it. I want the A paper, not the D paper. We used to sign a piece of garbage. I said, this man's going to be a general, right? Yeah. I don't want to use this. I want to use the big, beautiful, firm paper. I want to use the real gold writing when you talk about the position, and they're beautiful. But how would you like to have that where some kid sitting in the back office is having it signed with an auto pen? I thought about it, and I thought about you people first, admirals, generals. I said, somebody works his whole life. He gets into maybe the academies or wherever, but however you got there, and you go through years of work, and now you become an admiral or a general or whatever. And when you do, the President of the United States signs your commission, as you know, and that commission is beautifully displayed. And I sign it. Actually, I love my signature. I really do. Everyone loves my signature. But I signed it very proudly, and I always think to myself, how can you have an auto pen sign this? It's just so disrespectful. To me, it's just totally disrespectful. And it turned out that almost everything he did was signed by auto pen, except for what he gave his son, Hunter, pardon. He signed that one. And that's actually the worst signature I've ever seen. That was the bad. The auto pen looks much better. The Prime Minister of Pakistan was here, along with the Field Marshal, who's a very important guy in Pakistan, and he was here 3 days ago. And I didn't even realize it as beautiful as he said it, but he said that to a group of people that were with us, 2 generals, but a group, he said, this man saved millions of lives because he saved the war from going on, and that war was going to get very bad, very, very bad. President Trump saved millions and millions of lives. That was a bad war. And I was very honored. I loved the way he said it. Saved a lot of them. Even in Africa, we saved the Congo with Rwanda. They've been fighting for 31 years, 10 million people dead. I got that one done. And very proud of it. So if this works out, we'll have 8 in 8 months. That's pretty good. Nobody's ever done that. Will you get the Nobel Prize? Absolutely not. They'll give it to some guy that didn't do a damn thing. They'll give it to a guy that wrote a book about the mind of Donald Trump and what it took to solve the wars. And he'll get the Nobel Prize will go to a writer. Azerbaijan this was going on for 36 years. He said, it's not solvable, sir. You can't, don't do it. I said, I will do it. I will do it. And I got on the phone with the two countries. They were great. They were great. I knew immediately. I knew as soon as I started talking to them, we're going to solve that war. We did. Now they're so happy. Now they're friends. One said he's been president for 32 years, 22 years. He said, for 22 years, I did nothing but kill his people. They were in the room together at the Oval Office. And they started off spread like this. They have the beautiful Resolute desk. And one was here, and one was here. You couldn't get further away. That's the furthest I've ever seen two people in front of me. And as the hour went by, they got closer, closer, closer. And at the end of the hour, we had it done. And they hugged and hugged and hugged. And I said, that's so nice, and you're going to remain friends. And I spoke to them, one of them the other day. He said, no, he's now my friend. But for 22 years, he's been the head of Azerbaijan for 22 years. And the other guy, great guy too, 7. And that war, that was a war that was not solvable. He said for 7 years. The other one said for 22 years. All I did was kill his people. That's all I've done. I said, well, we're going to put a stop to that. So we solved that. So it's a great thing. It's a great feeling. You're saving Kosovo and Serbia. You're saving so many lives doing this if you can do it. But it is. When you look at, we've taken in trillions of dollars. We're rich again. And there'll never be, when we finish this out, there'll never be any wealth like what we have. Other countries were taking advantage of us for years and years. You know that better than anybody. And now we're treating them fairly. But the money coming in is, we've never seen anything like it. That's a hell of a lot of money. We have the best of everything. Every branch is seeing major investments. And as I announced in the Oval Office in March, we are rapidly moving forward with the first ever 6th generation fighter jet. I didn't name it. I did not name it. Boeing came in and they said, sir, this is our submittal. It's the greatest fighting jet ever done. And they're testing all these planes. All the companies are testing, and this one tested like through the roof. And they said, we'd like to name it the F-47. I said, all right, let me think about it. Then after thinking for about 2 seconds, I said, okay. You know what that means, 47, I'm 47. So I'm 45, 46, and 47, if you think about it. I just don't want the credit for 46. I don't want to have their open borders and people coming in from all over the world, including jails and mental institutes. I don't want that on my record, but I like having it because, as you know, with tariffs, everyone's coming into our country. We have more investment than we've ever had before, $17 trillion coming in. As an example, in 4 years, Biden didn't have $1 trillion. We have 17 trillion more than that in 8 months coming in. And they're coming in from Canada, Mexico, from Europe, from all over. AI, auto plants. Everybody's coming back to the United States. My campaign was run on common sense, and we did great. We got the highest numbers ever received in terms of districts. They have it broken up, 2,500 versus 525. We won every swing state. We won the popular vote. We won everything. We won everything. You have to take a look at the map. It's almost entirely red, except there's a little blue line on each coast, and I think that's going to disappear too. But together with many of you in the room, we've brought back the fundamental principle that defending the homeland is the military's first and most important priority. That's what it is. Only in recent decades did politicians somehow come to believe that our job is to police the far reaches of Kenya and Somalia, while America is under invasion from within. We're under invasion from within. No different than a foreign enemy, but more difficult in many ways because they don't wear uniforms. At least when they're wearing a uniform, you can take them out. These people don't have uniforms. But we are under invasion from within. We're stopping it very quickly. After spending trillions of dollars defending the borders of foreign countries, with your help, we're defending the borders of our country from now on. We're not going to let this happen. Biden let people come in from prisons, mental institutions, drug dealers. murderers. We had 11,488 murderers allowed into our country by this guy who had no clue. He had no clue. He shouldn't have been there in the first place, but he had no clue. The people that ran the office, the White House, were people that surrounded him, radical left lunatics that are brilliant people, but dumb as hell when it came to policy and common sense. And they allowed people from all over the world, from the Congo. They opened up prisons in the Congo. They came into our country totally unmatched, unvetted, unchecked. And from all over, South America, not just South America. You think South America, no, but from all over. A lot came in from Venezuela. Venezuela emptied its prison population into our country. That's why they have Tren de Aragua, one of the worst gangs ever. But we took care of them. We took good, strong care of them. And I just want to thank the National Guard in Washington, D.C. It's embarrassing to say this. Now I can say it because we solved it. But Washington, D.C. was the most unsafe, most dangerous city in the United States of America. And to a large extent, beyond. And beyond that. You go to Afghanistan, they didn't have anything like that. You go to countries that you would think there's problems, they didn't have that. And now Washington, D.C., after 12 days of serious, serious intensity, we took out 1,700 career criminals. If you have 5 career criminals, they can make your numbers look very bad because they'll commit many crimes a day. But we took out 1,700, and they took them out. There was no doubt who the boss was. They did an unbelievable job. Then they started even cleaning. I said, I don't want them doing that, sir. They were cleaning it up. I drove through it 2 days ago. It was beautiful. People are walking down the street holding hands, man and wife, coming from Iowa. They're not worried about being shot. Washington, D.C. is now a safe city. In fact, I went out to dinner with my crew. I haven't done that. In theory, I wouldn't do it. And I felt totally safe. And nobody's been attacked. Nobody's been hurt. Washington, D.C. went from our most unsafe city to just about our safest city in a period of a month. We had it under control in 12 days, but give us another 15, 16 days, it's perfect. And people other than politicians that look bad, they think, the Democrats run most of the cities that are in bad shape. We have many cities in great shape too, by the way, I want you to know that. But it seems that the ones that are run by the radical left Democrats, what they've done to San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, they're very unsafe places. And we're going to straighten them out one by one. And this is going to be a major part for some of the people in this room. That's a war, too. It's a war from within. Controlling the physical territory of our border is essential to national security. We can't let these people in. We had no people enter in the last 4 months. 0. Even I can't believe that. We had millions coming in, pouring in. 25 million all told. And of those 25 million, many of them should never be in our country. They would take their worst people and their people from prisons and jail, and they'd put them in a caravan and they'd walk up. CNN was interviewing one person. Oh, why are you coming? I want freedom. Good. Were you in jail? Yes. For what? Murder. I said, you had to see this anchor, a young woman. She's like, I couldn't believe. She'll probably lose her job. But because the left doesn't want to hear that. But we're running it based on common sense and based on love of our country. But I want to salute every service member who has helped us carry out this critical mission. It's really a very important mission. And I told Pete, we should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military, National Guard, but military. Because we're going into Chicago very soon. That's a big city with an incompetent governor, stupid governor, stupid. They threw him out of his family business. He was so stupid. I know the family. He becomes governor. He's got money. Not money that he made, but he ran for governor, he won, and now he criticizes us all the time. And last week they had 11 people murdered, 44 people shot. The week before that they had 5 people murdered, 28 people shot. Every weekend they lose 5, 6. If they lose 5, they're considering it a great week. They shouldn't lose any. You shouldn't lose any. This civilization. And he's always up there saying, we're in very good shape. We don't need the military. No, they need the military desperately. How about Portland, Oregon, where it looks like a war zone? And I get a call from the liberal governor, sir, please don't come in. We don't need you. I said, well, unless they're playing false tapes, this looked like World War II. Your place is burning down. I mean, you must be kidding. Sir, we have it under control. I said, you don't have it under control, Governor, but I'll check it and I'll call you back. I called her back. I said, this place is a nightmare. Probably, it's certainly not the biggest, but it's one of the worst. It's brutal. They go after our ICE people, who are great patriots and tough job too, but they love it. They love it because they're cleaning up our country. And so you look at some of the things where they took over parts of Seattle. They actually took over a big percentage of Seattle. Think of that. You remember that. That was a while ago. And I sent in the troops and they were gone. As soon as I sent them in, when we send in the troops, if you have a real leader that says you got to do what you have to do, I put that out the other day. You got to do what you got to do because we don't want our people hurt as they stand by. I was watching during Biden, there were troops standing up like this, brave, standing up at attention, the way I should stand all the time. And I'm like this, and people are standing, and their mouth is this far away from their mouth, and they're spitting at them, and they're screaming at him. And that soldier standing there, he wants to knock the hell out of the person, but he's not allowed to do anything. So they just stand there and they get abused. And a woman was this far away from his face, and she starts spitting in his face, and he's not allowed to do anything. If it's okay with you, generals and admirals, I've taken that off. I say, they spit, we hit. Is that okay? I think so. They spit, it's a new thing. They spit, we hit. How about the cars, where the cars are coming out? They get brand new cars, Border Patrol, ICE, beautiful, nice new cars. And they're driving along, and they have to go through a gauntlet of rocks being thrown at the car. So here's this beautiful brand new car. By the time it goes 100 yards, it's destroyed. These guys have pretty good arms, some of them. And they're throwing bricks at full force into the window and into the car. It looks like it's a war zone. And I said, never let that happen again. From now on, if that ever happens, and I say it here, you get out of that car and you can do whatever the hell you want to do. Because those people are you can die from that. Those bricks go through the windows. You can die. They'd like it to. They'd like it to go through the window. But this was a couple of months ago. They just kept driving and bricks are hitting the car. And I said, why aren't they stopping? Because they were under orders from the past administration, never stop. But that's different with us. We stop. And since I gave that order, we haven't had that problem. It's very interesting. It's amazing. It's just like in Venezuela. You've seen the boats going. We can't find any more boats. They're carrying drugs, massive. Every boat kills about 25,000 people. That's what they have. They had fentanyl mostly and a lot of other drugs. And we take them out, and we've taken out 4. And it's on air. Everybody gets to see it. Not that we like to do that, but every boat kills 25,000 on average, 20. Some people say more. You know, you see these boats, they're stacked up with bags of white powder. It's mostly fentanyl and other drugs too. And now we have a problem. General Kane says, sir, there are no boats out there. Not even fishing boats. They don't want to go fishing. I don't blame them. There'll be no fishing today, you know. But it's amazing what strength will do, because what we want to do is stop drugs from flowing into our country. It's destroying. We lost 300,000 people died last year. Everybody knows friends, many friends probably, that you lost a child, or adults too, but you lost a son or daughter because of what's coming into our border. And we're making it very hard. Oh, and we haven't even started yet. Last month I signed an executive order to provide training for quick reaction force that can help quell civil disturbances. This is going to be a big thing for the people in this room, because it's the enemy from within, and we have to handle it before it gets out of control. It won't get out of control. once you're involved at all, they all joke. They say, oh, this is not good. You saw it in Washington. We had gangs of Trendy Arag, which had 10, 12, 15 kids. And these military guys walk up to them, and they treat them with disrespect, and they just got pounded. They just got pounded. The gang just pounded. Then thrown into paddy wagons and taken back to their country. Some are so dangerous we don't want to even do that because we don't want to. Some of stone cold murderers, we don't have the confidence. Even though they're not coming back very easily, we don't have the confidence. We put them in jails. As president, I will never hesitate to defend our people from threats of violence, from the horrible plague that's taking place from within. The Iran nuclear power, the Iran, all of the great power that we thought existed, we blew it out to kingdom. We took advantage of it, and we just really took advantage of it, and it was a beautiful thing to see, and that's what military power can achieve. It's my inauguration. We're witnessing the triumphant return of peace through strength. We have great peace through strength. America is respected again as a country. We were not respected with Biden. They looked at him falling downstairs every day. Every day the guy's falling downstairs. He said, it's not our president. We can't have it. I'm very careful, you know, when I walk downstairs, like I'm on stairs, like these stairs, I walk very slowly. Nobody has to set a record. Just try not to fall, because it doesn't work out well. A few of our presidents have fallen, and it became a part of their legacy. We don't want that. You walk nice and easy. You don't have to set any record. Be cool. Be cool when you walk down, but don't bop down the stairs. So one thing with Obama, I had zero respect for him as a president, but he would bop down those stairs. I've never said, da-da-da-da-da-da, bop, bop, bop. He'd go down the stairs, wouldn't hold on. I said, it's great. I don't want to do it. I guess I could do it. But eventually, bad things are going to happen. And it only takes once. But he did a lousy job as president. A year ago, we were a dead country. We were dead. This country was going to hell. We were dead in every way, from immigration to military. We didn't have the weapons. We were given everything to Ukraine. We had nothing. And by the way, I have to tell you, now, as you know, I went over and I met with NATO, and NATO raised from 2 to 5, which everyone said 5% of GDP. Millions and now trillions of dollars are pouring in. They didn't pay the 2% because they know we were there to pay it. And now they paid the 5%. That's trillions of dollars. And we're not spending any money on that war, not 10 cents. We sell our equipment to NATO. NATO pays us for the equipment, and they give it to Ukraine or whoever they give it to. They can keep it, but we're not involved. We have no money going out. Biden gave $350 billion. Not sustainable, $350 billion. And we have a war that should have never started. But we're not doing that anymore. So I just want you to know we're selling equipment. Our people are buying equipment. They are buying the equipment at full price, a fair price. So I don't want to say we're making money, because I don't want to be making money on a war. It's too many people dying. They're losing 7,000 soldiers a week. A lot of them are Russian soldiers, but between the two countries, mostly soldiers, by the way. Sometimes, you know, in Kiev, they'll lob a missile in, or some drones in, kill some people. But mostly it's soldiers. Russia and Ukraine are losing 7,000 souls. And, you know, they're not American. They're not us. They're not you. We have a special obligation. But they're soldiers. They're young people. They leave their parents. They wave goodbye. And then 2 days later, they're blown up so unnecessarily. And so that's the primary reason I want to get it done. We got to get it done. It's crazy what's going on. That's the worst war that there's been since World War II. The number of soldiers that are being killed there is just crazy. From 5,000 to 7,000 soldiers die a week. Think of that. So I think we'll get that done. But that's turned out to be the toughest one. I'm so disappointed in President Putin. I thought he would get this thing over with. He should have had that war done in a week. And I said to him, you don't look good. You're 4 years fighting a war that should have taken a week. Are you a paper tiger? And it's a shame, but I think eventually we'll get that one done, just like in theory, I want to knock on wood, because you never know. It's like we're going to have the Middle East done, which is actually a much harder thing to do. I mean, thousands of years, but we have to get that war done. So now just think of it, we're a dead country. I was with the King of Saudi Arabia, a great guy. I was with the Emir of Qatar. I was with the great leadership of UAE. I was over there. We brought back $2 trillion and more. They ordered 200 planes, Boeings. They ordered so much, and they were great. But they all said essentially the same thing. They said, 1 year ago, you were a dead country, and now you're the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're the hottest country in the world right now. The absolute hottest country in the world. There's nobody even close. Putin said that to me. We met in Alaska, had a good meeting. Then he went back and started sending drones into Kiev. I thought we had a good meeting. But it's one of those things. But we were a dead country a year ago. And now we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. Think of that. You can be proud of that. What a difference a presidential election can make. That's all it is. It's just a presidential election.